My sister said I wasn't ready to sit with the family yet, so I stayed home and watched the news where my deal just shattered industry records. The next morning, my entire family was waiting in my lobby. I need to get this off my chest because the past 48 hours have been absolutely surreal and I'm still processing everything that happened. For context, I'm 29 years old and work in private equity. I know that sounds vague, but stick with me because the details matter. I've spent the last 6 years working 80-hour weeks, missing holidays, skipping family gatherings, and basically sacrificing any semblance of a normal life to build my career. My family never really understood what I did. To them, I was just working in finance, which they seemed to think meant I was a glorified bank teller or something. My older sister, Melissa, is 33 and works as a dental hygienist. She's married to a guy named Brad, who manages a car dealership. They have 2 kids, and honestly, they're the golden children of our family. My parents worship the ground they walk on. Every Sunday dinner is at their house. Every holiday centers around their schedule. Every conversation eventually circles back to their accomplishments, no matter how small. My younger brother Tyler is 26 and works in pharmaceutical sales. He does well for himself, drives a nice car, and has always been mom's baby. He can do no wrong in her eyes. Then there's me, the middle child, who was always too ambitious, or too focused on work, or not making time for what really matters. I heard it all growing up. When I got into Yale, my mom's first comment was asking if I'd still be able to come home for Christmas. When I landed my first major job at a boutique investment firm, my dad asked when I was going to settle down and find a husband. When I bought my condo in Manhattan 2 years ago, Melissa said it seemed lonely and sterile. I stopped trying to impress them years ago. I still showed up for major holidays, called my parents once a week, and tried to maintain some kind of relationship, but there was always this undercurrent of disappointment, like I wasn't living up to their expectations of what a daughter should. 3 months ago, I started working on the biggest deal of my career. We were facilitating the acquisition of a major pharmaceutical distribution network by a consortium of investors. The deal was worth $8.7 billion. Yes, billion with a B. I was leading the transaction team, which meant I was responsible for due diligence, negotiating terms, coordinating with legal teams, and basically living at the office for 12 weeks straight. I missed Tyler's birthday dinner. I missed my nephew's soccer championship. I had to bail on my mom's retirement party at the last minute because we hit a snag with regulatory approval. Each time, I apologized profusely and explained I was working on something massive, but the response was always the same tired disappointment. 2 weeks ago, Melissa called me about Thanksgiving. Our family always does this huge dinner at her house with about 20 people, extended family, Brad's parents, the whole production. She asked if I was coming, and I said, absolutely, I wouldn't miss it. The deal was scheduled to close on November 22nd, 2 days before Thanksgiving, so I'd be free. Fast forward to last Tuesday, 5 days before Thanksgiving. I got a call from Melissa around noon. I was in the middle of a conference call, but I saw it was her and figured it might be important. So I stepped out and called her back. Hey, what's up? I asked, already walking back toward my office. So, listen about Thursday, she started, and I could hear that tone in her voice. The one she uses when she's about to say something she knows I won't like, but she's convinced she's right about. Brad and I have been talking, and we think maybe this year you should sit this one out. I literally stopped walking in the middle of the hallway. What? Sit out Thanksgiving? It's just that you've been so flaky lately, and we're trying to make this dinner really special. Brad's parents are coming, and his sister just got engaged, so we want to celebrate that. We need people who are going to be present, not checking their phones every 5 minutes or leaving early because of work. My blood pressure spiked immediately. I haven't confirmed I'm coming and then bailed in years. The few times I've had to miss things, I've given you as much notice as possible. Come on, Domenica. You missed Tyler's birthday last month. You couldn't even make it to Mom's retirement party. You're always working on something big, but honestly, we're just tired of planning around someone who's never actually going to show up. I'm literally telling you right now that I'll be there. My deal closes on Wednesday. I'll have all of Thursday free. She sighed like I was being deliberately difficult. See, that's the problem. You don't get it. It's not just about physically being here. It's about being mentally present, being part of the family instead of treating us like some obligation you have to check off your list. Maybe take this year to think about your priorities, and next year you can join us when you're actually ready to be part of this family again. I was stunned into silence. After a moment, I managed to say, "Is this really how you feel, or is this coming from Mom and Dad too?" We all talked about it. She admitted, "We just think some space would be good. Help you figure out what's really important." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her exactly how hard I've been working and why it mattered. But instead, I just said, "Fine, if that's what you want, I'll stay home." Don't be like that. We're not trying to hurt you. We're just being honest. I appreciate the honesty, I said, keeping my voice level. Have a great Thanksgiving. I hung up before she could respond. I went back to my office, closed the door, and let myself have exactly 5 minutes to be angry. Then I got back to work because I had a multi-billion-dollar deal to close and apparently no family dinner to rush home for. The next few days were chaos. We hit another snag with one of the investors, and for about 18 hours on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, it looked like the whole thing might fall apart. I didn't sleep. I practically lived on coffee and adrenaline. But by Wednesday afternoon, we had it sorted. Every signature was in place, every regulatory requirement met, every term negotiated and agreed upon. We closed the deal at 6:47 p.m. on Wednesday, November 22nd. My managing partner, a guy named Richard, who's been in private equity for 30 years, actually had tears in his eyes. This was the biggest transaction our firm had ever completed. My commission alone was going to be just over $4.3 million. The lead partner was clearing somewhere in the range of $15 million. We celebrated at the office with champagne that cost more than my first car. Richard gave a speech about how this was a career-defining moment for everyone involved, but especially for me since I'd led the team. People were clapping and hugging, and I felt this weird mix of absolute triumph and crushing loneliness. I went home to my sterile condo around 9:00 p.m. I ordered Thai food, changed into sweatpants, and sat down on my couch. Tomorrow was Thanksgiving, and I had absolutely nothing to do. No dinner to attend, no family to see, nowhere to be. I turned on the TV just to have some noise and flipped to CNN. They were covering business news, which they sometimes do in the evening. And then I heard it. In a groundbreaking deal announced just hours ago, private equity firm Ashford and Crane has facilitated the acquisition of Medstream Distribution by a consortium of international investors in a transaction valued at $8.7 billion. This represents the largest pharmaceutical distribution deal in industry history, shattering the previous record set in 2019. My food arrived at some point. I think I paid the delivery guy. I honestly don't remember because I was glued to the TV as they kept talking about the deal. They brought on an industry analyst who called it a watershed moment and discussed how it would reshape the entire pharmaceutical supply chain. They mentioned Ashford and Crane by name 3 times. Then they cut to footage from a press conference we'd held that afternoon. There was Richard at the podium, and right behind him, clearly visible in the frame, was me. My name appeared on the screen. Domenica Chen, lead transaction manager, Ashford and Crane. I sat there with my pad thai getting cold, watching myself on CNN, processing the absolute insanity of the timing. 24 hours ago, my sister had uninvited me from Thanksgiving because I wasn't ready to be part of the family, because my work wasn't as important as being present. And now that work was literally breaking news on national television. My phone started buzzing. Colleagues from business school were texting congratulations. Former coworkers were sending messages. My LinkedIn was exploding with notifications, but nothing from my family. They had no idea because they'd never bothered to ask exactly what deal I was working on or when it was closing. I barely slept that night. I kept thinking about all the times I tried to explain how important this was, how big the opportunity was, and been met with glazed eyes and subtle implications that I was using work as an excuse to avoid family. Nobody had asked questions. Nobody had shown any interest in understanding what I actually did or why it required so much of my time and energy. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up around 9:00. I made coffee and was debating whether to cook an actual meal or just have cereal when my doorman called up. "Miss Chen, you have visitors in the lobby." "I'm not expecting anyone," I said, confused. "It's a family," He sounded uncertain. They're saying they're here for Thanksgiving. My stomach dropped. How many people? Looks like 7 or 8. I told him to give me 5 minutes. I threw on jeans and a sweater, didn't bother with makeup, and went downstairs. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. The doors opened, and there they all were. Mom, Dad, Melissa, Brad, Tyler, and Tyler's girlfriend, Amanda, who I'd met exactly twice. They were clustered near the doorman's desk, looking uncomfortable and out of place in my building's sleek marble lobby. My mother saw me first. Her face lit up with this big smile that looked forced, even from across the room. "Domenica, happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart." I walked over slowly, my mind racing. "What are you guys doing here?" "We wanted to surprise you," Melissa said, her voice bright and fake. "We felt terrible about that phone call, and we realized we couldn't have Thanksgiving without you, so we decided to bring Thanksgiving to you." Brad was holding 2 grocery bags. Tyler had what looked like a pie carrier. My mom was clutching her purse like a lifeline. "You uninvited me 4 days ago?" I said flatly. "You told me I wasn't ready to sit with a family." My dad jumped in using his peacemaker voice. "Honey, that was a misunderstanding. We got our wires crossed. The important thing is, we're all here now together, and we can have a nice day." I looked at each of them. My mom couldn't meet my eyes. Melissa was doing this thing where she tilts her head and smiles like she's posing for a picture. Tyler was staring at his shoes. "You saw the news?" I said it wasn't a question. The silence was deafening. Finally, Melissa let out this nervous laugh. "Okay. Yes, we saw CNN last night. Domenica, why didn't you tell us your deal was going to be on the news? That was incredible. $8.7 billion. I had no idea you were working on something that massive. I tried to tell you," I said quietly, multiple times, for months. I told you I was working on the biggest deal of my career. I told you it was worth billions. I explained why I couldn't make certain events. But none of you ever asked for details because you'd already decided my work wasn't as important as showing up for birthday dinners. That's not fair, my mom protested. You always just said you were busy with work. You never explained it was something this significant. I actually laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. I told you it was the biggest deal of my career. I told you it was worth billions. What exactly did you think that meant? And more importantly, why did you need my work to be on CNN before you believed it mattered? Domenica, come on, Tyler said, speaking for the first time. Don't be like this. We're here now. We're proud of you. You're here now, I repeated. The morning after you saw me on national news attached to a record-breaking deal. Where were you 4 days ago when Melissa called to uninvite me? Where was all this pride when I was missing events because I was working 100-hour weeks to make this happen? We made a mistake, my dad said. We're admitting that. Can we please just go upstairs and have a nice meal together? We brought everything we need to cook. I looked at these people who shared my DNA, who I'd spent 29 years trying to please, trying to fit into their vision of who I should be. I thought about every dismissive comment, every time my achievements were downplayed or ignored, every time I'd been made to feel like I was disappointing them by pursuing my career. No, I said. My mother blinked. What? No, you can't come upstairs. No, we're not having Thanksgiving together. You uninvited me because you decided I wasn't ready to be part of the family. So I'm taking your advice. I'm taking this time to think about my priorities. And right now, my priority is not spending my day off with people who only value me when I'm on television. Domenica, that's ridiculous, Melissa said, her voice getting sharp. We're your family. You can't just turn us away. You turned me away first, I pointed out. You told me to sit this one out. So, that's what I'm doing. You all enjoy your dinner at your house with Brad's family. I'm sure it'll be lovely and special, just like you planned. This is childish, Brad said, speaking up for the first time. Your sister apologized. The least you could do is accept it gracefully. I turned to look at him. She didn't apologize. Nobody has apologized. You all just showed up expecting me to be grateful that you're willing to give me your time now that you realize my career is actually impressive. That's not an apology. That's you trying to get in on the glory. Oh my God, Melissa said, rolling her eyes. This is exactly what I was talking about. You're so focused on your career that you can't even accept an olive branch from your own family. Everything is about work with you. Something inside me snapped. You know what the best part of yesterday was? After we closed the deal, after the champagne and the celebration, I came home alone. I ordered takeout and sat on my couch in my sterile apartment and watched CNN cover the biggest professional achievement of my life. And it was actually peaceful. I wasn't worrying about disappointing anyone. I wasn't feeling guilty for not being somewhere else. I was just proud of myself. Something I've never really felt like I was allowed to be around you all. My mom had tears in her eyes now. How can you say that? We've always been proud of you, have you? I asked. Because I got into Yale and you asked if I'd still come home for Christmas. I bought my own place in Manhattan at 27 and Melissa said it looked lonely. I've spent 6 years building an incredible career, and until yesterday, you all treated it like a hobby. That was getting in the way of my real responsibilities. So, forgive me if I'm having trouble believing you're suddenly proud now. What do you want from us? Tyler asked, frustrated. You want us to grovel? We came all the way here to make things right. I want you to leave, I said simply. I want you to go back to Melissa's house and have your dinner with people who are ready to be there. And I want you to think about whether you actually miss having me around, or if you just don't like how it looks now that everyone knows I'm successful. I turned to walk back to the elevator. My dad called after me. Domenica, please don't do this. Family is family. We should be able to get past this. I stopped and looked back at them one more time. Family is family. Dead, which is why it hurts so much when mine decided I wasn't worth having around, unless I met their specific criteria. You're right that we'll get past this eventually. But it's not going to be today. And it's not going to be just because you saw me on TV and realized I might actually be someone worth knowing. I got in the elevator and pressed the button for my floor. The last thing I saw before the doors closed was all of them standing there in the lobby, looking shocked and helpless. I went back upstairs, deadbolted my door, and let myself have a good cry. Then I pulled myself together, ordered an obscene amount of Chinese food from my favorite place, and spent Thanksgiving watching movies and responding to congratulatory messages from colleagues who actually understood what I'd accomplished. Around 7:00 p.m., I started getting texts. First from Tyler, "We're home. We're all really upset. Please reconsider." Then from my mom, "I love you so much. I'm sorry you're hurting. Can we please talk soon?" Then Melissa, "I think we both said things we didn't mean. I hope you're okay." I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't being cruel or trying to punish them. I just genuinely had nothing to say yet. I needed time to process everything to figure out what kind of relationship I wanted with them going forward, if any. Friday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. My first instinct was panic, thinking something terrible had happened. But as I scrolled through, I saw they were from extended family members I barely heard from. Aunt Carol, who I saw maybe once every 2 years, my cousin Jennifer from Boston, my dad's brother, Uncle Mark, who I'd spoken to exactly 3 times in my adult life. The voicemails were all variations of the same theme. Saw you on the news. So proud. We should catch up soon. It was fascinating how success made you suddenly visible to people who'd never bothered to check in before. My college roommate, Rebecca, called around 10. Unlike my family, she'd been following my career closely for years. She knew about every promotion, every major deal, every sacrifice I'd made. "How are you holding up?" she asked, skipping pleasantries entirely. Honestly, I have no idea. I was still in pajamas, drinking coffee on my couch. The deal closed, which is amazing, but everything with my family is a complete disaster. Tell me. So I did. I walked her through the whole thing, from Melissa's phone call to the lobby confrontation. Rebecca listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I'd always loved about her. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You know what's wild? I've heard you talk about your family for years, and this doesn't surprise me at all. They've always treated your career like it was some phase you'd grow out of. I kept thinking if I just worked hard enough, achieved enough, they'd finally get it. But you shouldn't have to be on CNN for your own family to respect you." Rebecca pointed out that's the whole problem. They only care now because other people are telling them you're impressive. They couldn't see it on their own. She was right, obviously, but hearing it out loud made something settle in my chest. I'd spent so long gaslighting myself, wondering if maybe I really was too focused on work, too absent, too ambitious. Having someone validate that my family's behavior was actually the problem felt like permission to trust my own judgment. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I have no idea. Part of me wants to just cut them off entirely, but they're still my family. You know that has to count for something. It counts for something. Rebecca agreed, but it doesn't count for everything. You get to decide what role they play in your life, not them. We talked for another hour. She told me about her own Thanksgiving, which involved her partner's family and apparently an incident with a deep-fried turkey that nearly burned down their garage. Normal holiday chaos, the kind I thought I'd be having. After we hung up, I decided to go for a walk. Manhattan was quieter than usual, lots of people still out of town for the holiday weekend. I ended up in Central Park, just wandering the paths and thinking. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Sweetheart, I know you need space, but please know that I love you. I'm sorry I didn't understand how important your work was. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to choose between your career and your family. You shouldn't have had to choose. I should have supported both. It was the most self-aware thing my mother had ever said to me. I read it 3 times, looking for the catch, the qualifier, the but that usually followed her apologies. It wasn't there. I texted back, "Thank you for saying that. I love you too. I just need some time." She responded immediately with a heart emoji and take all the time you need. Saturday brought a different kind of chaos. My LinkedIn profile had exploded. I had over 300 new connection requests, dozens of messages from recruiters, and multiple interview requests from business publications. Our firm's PR team reached out to coordinate everything, making sure I didn't accidentally say something that would violate confidentiality agreements or create legal issues. I spent most of the day on calls with various journalists, all asking variations of the same questions. How did we structure the deal? What made this acquisition unique? What advice would I give to young women in finance? By the end of it, my professional success felt more real than it ever had. These people weren't family obligated to be impressed. They were industry experts genuinely interested in what I'd accomplished. Sunday afternoon, I got an unexpected text from Brad, Melissa's husband. We'd never been close. He always seemed to view me as Melissa's weird workaholic sister who showed up occasionally and left early. "Hey, Domenica, I wanted to reach out separately from Melissa. I owe you an apology. On Thanksgiving morning, when we showed up at your building, I called you childish for not accepting the apology, but you were right. We hadn't actually apologized. We just expected you to be grateful we were giving you attention. That was wrong. I'm sorry." I stared at that message for a long time. Brad wasn't exactly known for introspection or emotional intelligence. The fact that he'd sent this at all meant he'd really been thinking about it. "I appreciate you saying that," I typed back. That took guts. "Melissa's been a mess since Thursday," he continued. "She keeps saying she ruined everything. I think she's realizing she's been competing with you this whole time instead of supporting you. That's hard to face. Is she okay? She will be. But I think you two need to have a real conversation eventually. Not today, not this week, but eventually." "Yeah," I agreed. Eventually. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went through old photo albums on my computer, pictures from childhood, family vacations, holidays. There was one from my high school graduation where I was holding my acceptance letter to Yale. My parents were on either side of me, beaming with pride. We looked genuinely happy. Somewhere along the way, that pride had turned into something else. Maybe it was when I stopped following the script they'd imagined for me. Maybe it was when my success started making them uncomfortable because it highlighted the conventional nature of their own choices. Maybe they'd always been this way, and I'd just been too eager to please to notice. I found a photo from Thanksgiving 4 years ago. We were all crammed onto Melissa's couch, someone's arm cut off at the edge of the frame, Tyler making a stupid face, my mom laughing at something my dad said. I was squeezed in next to my nephew, looking tired but happy. I'd left that dinner early for a work call. I remembered Melissa had made a comment about it, something passive-aggressive about priorities. The moment was already poisoned before it ended. Monday morning, I went back to the office. The energy was electric. Everyone was still riding high from the deal, and there was talk of end-of-year bonuses that would be substantial. Richard pulled me into his office first thing. "How are you handling all the attention?" he asked. "It's a lot, I admit it, but good. Weird, but good. You've earned every bit of it. I want you to know that." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "I also want you to know that we're watching you closely for the next steps. Partnership is on the table, Domenica. You're ready for it. Partnership. At 29, in a firm where the average partner was 45. It was everything I'd been working toward, and hearing it out loud made it real in a way that even the successful deal hadn't. "Thank you," I managed. "That means everything." "You've sacrificed a lot for this career," Richard said, and something in his tone made me look up sharply. "I know you miss Thanksgiving with your family. I know you've missed a lot of things over the years. I want you to know that we see that and we value it, but I also want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. This job can consume you if you let it." It was unexpectedly thoughtful, and I found myself tearing up slightly. "I'm okay." Actually, missing Thanksgiving might have been the best thing that could have happened. It forced some long overdue realizations. He didn't cry, just nodded. "Well, take a few days to recover this week. We'll gear up for the next one after the holidays." The next day, Tuesday, I finally responded to Melissa's text about lunch. "I'm not ready yet, but I appreciate the apology. I think we both need some space to process everything. Maybe we can talk after the holidays," she wrote back within minutes. "Yes, absolutely. Thank you for even responding." "I was worried you'd never speak to me again. I'm not that dramatic," I typed, then paused. Actually, maybe I was. Maybe I'd earned the right to be dramatic after years of bending over backward to accommodate everyone else's feelings while my own were dismissed. "You had every right to be," Melissa responded. "What I said on that phone call was cruel. I've been thinking about it nonstop. I think I was trying to punish you for being successful because it made me feel inadequate. That's my issue, not yours. I'm working on it." It was the most honest she'd ever been with me. I didn't know what to do with it yet, but it was something. Wednesday evening, my dad called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hi, sweetheart," he said, his voice careful. "Is this a good time?" "It's fine. What's up?" "I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving." "About everything, really?" He paused, and I heard him take a breath. "Your mother and I have been talking a lot. We went to see a counselor yesterday, actually, a family therapist." That shocked me into silence. My parents had never been therapy people. They were more of the "we don't air our dirty laundry" generation. "We realize that we have no idea how to relate to you anymore," he continued, "and that's our failure, not yours. We raised you to be independent and ambitious, and then we punished you for it because it didn't look the way we expected. That's not fair, and it's not okay." "Dad," I started, but he kept going. "Let me finish, please. I've been practicing this." Another breath. "You're an incredible person, Domenica. You're brilliant and driven and successful. And instead of celebrating that, we made you feel like you had to hide it or apologize for it. I think we were scared. Scared that we couldn't relate to you anymore. Scared that you'd moved into a world we didn't understand and you wouldn't need us anymore." My throat was tight. "I've always needed you. I just needed you to be proud of me for who I actually am, not who you wanted me to be. I know that now. I'm so sorry it took this long for me to see it." His voice cracked. "I watched you on TV talking about that deal, and I thought, I have no idea what half of these terms mean. And then I thought, my daughter does. My daughter led this. And I never asked her to explain it to me because I was too busy being disappointed that she wasn't at Sunday dinner." I was crying now, quietly, sitting on my couch in my Manhattan apartment that my sister had called sterile. "The therapist said something yesterday that really hit me." Dad continued. "She said that sometimes parents can't handle it when their children surpass them. It threatens their identity as the wise ones, the successful ones. And I think that's what happened. You surpassed us, Domenica, in every measurable way. And instead of being proud, we felt diminished." "That's not my fault," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "No, it's absolutely not. It's ours, and we're working on it. We're going to keep seeing this therapist. We're going to do better. I'm not asking you to forgive us right now or come back for Christmas or anything like that. I'm just asking you to leave the door open, please." I thought about that photo from my high school graduation. The pride on their faces when I got into Yale. That had been real. Maybe this could be real again too, with work and time and boundaries. "The door's not closed," I finally said. "But it's not wide open either. You hurt me, Dad. All of you, and seeing me on TV doesn't erase that." "I know. I understand. We'll take whatever you're willing to give." We talked for a few more minutes, mostly small talk. He asked about the deal, and for the first time, I actually explained it, the structure, the challenges, the negotiations. He listened without interrupting, asking occasional questions that showed he was really trying to understand. When we hung up, I felt lighter somehow. Not healed, but maybe on the path to it. The next day, Friday, I got an email from Richard. The press coverage of our deal had been overwhelming. We were getting interview requests from Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes. Everyone wanted to talk to the team that had pulled off the biggest pharmaceutical distribution acquisition in history. He asked if I'd be willing to be featured in some of these articles, and I said yes. Over the weekend, my family group chat that had been silent since Tuesday suddenly became active. My dad sent a link to the Wall Street Journal article that mentioned me by name. My mom sent a heart emoji. Tyler sent, "Proud of you, sis." Melissa sent a longer message. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize I owe you a real apology, not just for uninviting you, but for years of not taking your career seriously. I think I was maybe a little jealous, if I'm being honest. You've accomplished so much, and I felt left behind. That's not an excuse, just an explanation. I'm genuinely sorry for how I treated you. If you're willing, I'd love to take you to lunch next time you're home and really talk." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to hold on to my anger and hurt, but another part of me recognized that it took guts to admit jealousy and to offer a real apology without qualifications or excuses. I didn't respond right away. I'm still figuring out how I feel and what I want. But for the first time in my entire relationship with my family, I feel like I'm in control. I'm not bending over backward to please them or prove myself worthy of their time. They're the ones reaching out, making an effort, acknowledging they were wrong. My therapist, who I started seeing after the whole Thanksgiving mess, says this is actually healthy. She says, "I've spent most of my life seeking validation from people who were never going to give it to me on my terms, and that their sudden interest now that I have external validation is telling. She's encouraging me to take my time deciding what role I want them to play in my life going forward. I don't know if I'll ever have a normal relationship with my family. I don't know if they're capable of valuing me for who I am rather than how my success reflects on them. But what I do know is that I'm done apologizing for my ambition. I'm done minimizing my achievements to make other people comfortable. I'm done being treated like the family disappointment when I'm actually killing it in every measurable way." Next week, I'm flying to London for meetings with our investors. In January, I'm being promoted to partner, the youngest in the firm's history. My life is exactly what I worked for, and I refuse to feel guilty about that anymore. As for Thanksgiving, I've decided I'm hosting next year at my sterile apartment. I'm inviting my colleagues, my friends from business school, and anyone else who supported me along the way. My family is welcome to come if they can manage to show up without judgment or conditions, but they better call ahead first because I'll be checking names at the door. Update. Okay, this blew up way more than I expected. I've gotten hundreds of messages, and I wanted to address a few common questions and comments. First, yes, this is real. I'm being deliberately vague about specific names and details about my firm because I value my privacy and my professional reputation, but the core story is absolutely true. Second, a lot of people are asking if I've talked to my family since Thanksgiving. The answer is yes, sort of. I had a phone call with my dad last week that was actually pretty productive. He apologized without making excuses and acknowledged that they'd all taken me for granted. He said, "My mom is devastated and wants to make things right, but she doesn't know how." I told him I need more time, and he respected that. Melissa and I exchanged a few more texts. She's been sending me articles about sibling relationships and birth order dynamics, which is very her. She's trying, and I appreciate that, but we're not at lunch yet. Maybe we'll get there. Tyler sent me a funny meme yesterday, which is basically his love language, so I think we're okay. Third, some people are saying I'm being too harsh and that family is family. I hear you, but respectfully, I disagree. Being related to someone doesn't give them the right to treat you poorly and then expect instant forgiveness when it's convenient for them. I spent years trying to maintain relationships with people who clearly didn't respect me or my choices. Setting boundaries isn't punishment, it's self-preservation. Finally, to everyone who shared their own stories of being the black sheep or the ambitious one in their family, thank you. It helps to know I'm not alone in this. We all deserve to be celebrated for our achievements, not made to feel guilty about them. I'm in a good place right now. My career is thriving. My therapist says I'm making progress. And for the first time in years, I feel like I'm living life on my own terms. Whatever happens with my family, I know I'll be okay. Because at the end of the day, I closed and China 8.7 billion deal.